Oh, we already filmed one episode, huh?
Huh?
We already filmed one episode, huh?
We did, yeah.
God damn.
Yeah.
Well, what it be, what it do, this is Chrissy Poo.
Hola, humans. This is Tristan Blue.
That actually sounds kind of catchy.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think we should keep it.
Okay. Just say hola in the most, white way I possibly can. Just butcher the shit out of it.
You know what's funny? We're like 12 episodes in, and it still feels uncomfortable opening up a podcast.
You know, for me, it just kind of depends on the day. Right now, I am, fresh off of work, and I've been thinking about math for 9 straight hours. So, honestly, by the time I'm, at that point, I don't really think about it too much. I'm just what the hell.
I think about it too much.
If it's bad, it's bad.
Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah.
We could always voice swap ourselves with Snoop Dogg or something. That AI stuff. We could have somebody like Snoop Dogg do it.
Could. We could. I'm still on that AI presidents thing where I'll listen to videos of AI presidents playing various games and whatnot, and they talk like total gamer bros rather than how they actually are. Which is sadly a lot more endearing than what they actually are.
I don't watch it because I feel like I get dumber.
Oh, yeah.
And then I don't understand some of the words that they use. I'm not a gamer. To that extent.
Oh, no, this isn't Xbox or any of that advanced gaming. It's little...
Oh.
It's... Yeah. They talk like the normal folk do, apparently. But, kind of. It is AI, so... Yeah. I don't know.
Well, this weekend we're going to be going to a bachelor party.
Yeah. I just got all of the ingredients in. One of them is... What are you doing with the hammer?
I feel like it's fitting.
Huh. Well, yeah, we are using a hammer for one of our games. Not that hammer. It's not the right type of hammer, even though I feel like using that hammer would be very interesting for that game. But, yeah. We're just going to be up in the middle of the woods doing random shenanigans.
Brokeback Mountain stuff.
Yeah.
Temptations.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the subject of our podcast tonight is we're going to talk about temptations because we know those come in very many different forms for many different people. I found out during a trip this weekend that one of the things that tempts a cousin of mine is 87-year-old women. He likes them in their 80s.
Wait, what? What?
No, I'm just messing. No, there was a little joke we had going on.
But this is the weird thing, though. You were like, we should talk about temptations. It's the best time to do it at a bachelor party when it's just 6 dudes in the middle of nowhere.
Well, here's the thing. I think temptations are somewhat the reason why I set it up the way I did. Because here's the thing. What do you think of when you think of most bachelor parties? Especially ones that you see in media or popular culture and all that stuff. What do you think of?
I'm a Christian man.
Yeah.
We pray together. We play together. Strippers.
There you go. I'm not really about that kind of stuff, but I understand why it's a temptation. Obviously, women, sex, all that stuff is a very popular form of temptation, what have you. And I'm just I don't know. For me, it's kind of interesting because as we talk about temptations, and especially when it comes to sex and whatnot, I've definitely got my stuff to open up about there. But for some reason, strippers are not a thing for me.
Me either. I've never been to a strip club, actually. So I can't really say that, strippers are tempting for me.
I've been to strip clubs twice, and I've discovered they're not really my scene, so to speak. The first time was when I was at college in Nebraska. I was a dorm room freshman. We decided to do it to bond as a dorm floor because it was an all boys dorm floor, and the biggest thing I remember is two guys. The stripper grabbed two guys' heads and put them each into one of her titties, and for the rest of the year, the two of them were called Titty Twins. One of them is still one of my friends to this day, and he will be attending the wedding. Hey, Patrick.
Damn.
The other time was in Vegas for my brother-in-law's bachelor party, and ironically enough, that was actually when he won me over, because all the strippers would just keep coming up, and naturally, we're like, "Oh, are you guys from here? No. Where are you from? What brought you here?" Natural conversation leads to, this guy's the bachelor, and they were pretty much asking him like, "Oh, your last night of freedom before you get married?" And he's like, "Nah, I can't wait to get married." Damn. And I was like, won me over in that moment. But that club visit consisted of that, and then there was a lady that came up to me. She had to be about 10 years older than me, and she was somebody who stripped there and whatnot. And we ended up just having like this hour and a half long, like super deep conversation, because I was with my ex at the time, and the relationship was largely just starting to go right into the toilet at that point. And so I was in a pretty vulnerable place emotionally, but we ended up talking. She told me her story, and it was honestly like one of the saddest things I'd ever heard, because she had stripped in her like early 20s, found a way to get out of it, fell into hard times, and had to go back. And I feel like when it would be kind of interesting, and I'm sure if you listen to episode 2, and Colleen kind of speaks about this too, with how mentally grueling it is. I feel like most people that do it to pay the bills. They don't do it because they necessarily love what they do. Maybe there's a few people out there like that, but generally I don't find that to be the case. And I feel like generally once they're out, they want to stay out. So it was kind of sad hearing like how she went out and had to essentially go back, and she felt like she had to get back into that just to, feed her kid and whatnot. So, we talked for an hour and a half, and the other guys were giving me a hard time of not marrying a stripper in Vegas and all that stuff. So,
well, no.
But I'd realize, I'm like, yeah, strip clubs aren't really my thing, man. Like, just you pay to see women naked, and from like a financial perspective, it's just a terrible use of money. You're pretty much just throwing money down the drain. Now, if you have money to throw down the drain, good for you. I mean, you could use that to, help people in need, but, that's your money. You can do what you want with it. So I'm just, but I know like for a lot of men, like there are temptations in that regard. And when it came to my bachelor party, I just wanted a good, relaxing, drama-free weekend where it's just a bunch of dudes hanging out and we do dude shit. And that is literally one of my favorite things to do. I got to do it last weekend with a couple of my cousins and had a lot of fun with it. And those are kind of the times where I'm just like feeling good and feeling like myself, and enjoy that kind of thing much more than going to a strip club and blowing all my money needlessly.
Well, I'm going to start drama.
You're going to what?
I'm going to start drama. I'm bringing a Bud Light to the only military guy we have there. Talking to you, Alex.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
You know, it's funny is when we had him on the show. For those of you that don't listen to every episode 5 is the guest that we're referencing. But I remember one of the first things I asked him, like, how do you feel when somebody tells you thank you for your service? And like, I just said that based fully on his answer.
Yeah. He's a cool guy. I feel like that's the only reason I will bring him a Bud Light. Yeah. I feel like he would take it as a joke and probably will drink it still.
You know who it would have been even funnier for is my buddy in Qatar. Because he's somebody... Like, getting a rise out of him is like taking candy from a baby. It is not hard to do. And you'd probably be able to do without even trying. He would have been the perfect candidate for the Bud Light. Alex is... It's kind of funny because I feel like when you hear... Kind of going back to our last episode about misconceptions, when you hear about somebody who's a Marine, you may have a certain stereotype in your head, and Alex does not fit that at all.
No.
Like, he's not loud, boisterous. He's just, like, a really calm, like, cool, collected dude. So, you could, like, play, like, some sort of joke on him, and you're probably not going to get the rise out of him that you want.
That's why I want to do it to him, because if he does give me something, I'm going to go off with it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But... back to temptations.
Yes.
All of us have temptations.
Yes.
What would you think, what temptations do you think you are battling now?
Temptations that I'm battling now. So, this one I'm no secret of. And it kind of goes into the realm of vulnerability a little bit, because I think depending on what temptations we have, a lot of us aren't comfortable talking about some of them. One thing that I have dealt with since the age of 14 is essentially a porn addiction. I have no problem sharing that because I've actually learned that if you share those kinds of things and you're very open about it, one, it lets people know that you're authentic. Two, if somebody ever tries to throw that back in your face for whatever reason, which has happened to me before, you know that it's a really good filter of seeing who should be in your circle and who shouldn't. So yeah, for me, a temptation that I deal with now, that I've dealt with since I was 14 and have talked with a therapist a lot about, is porn addiction. And at this point in the addiction, it's a lot more about the dopamine effect that you get, because even my therapist had said that there's not really something else that you can replace that with. That's why porn addiction is such a difficult thing for most men to deal with, because once you fall into it and you get that constant dopamine effect from getting off on yourself and what have you, if you try to stop that, there's nothing that is a one-for-one replacement of that. Like, for example, if you have a temptation to fight people because you're angry all the time, there's other ways to get that type of aggression out, whether it be through like a punching bag or, boxing or whatever the case may be, martial arts. But when it comes to something like this, there's no one-for-one replacement. Because the dopamine, there's other ways to get dopamine off, but it's not in the same way. And I guess the way that it gets released impacts things. So, working on that, it's been something that I've worked on for a while. I think the best thing that I am doing right now to work on it is being very honest and telling people about that. My fiance has known about it since we started dating. I was very upfront with her on that because I think it's really good to reveal those in your important relationships too, because if you're really with the person that you think you should be with, you shouldn't be worried to tell them those things. They want to help you and be your cheerleader and help you overcome those things. So she's been somebody that's been incredibly understanding with that, but it's still something that I don't want passed down to my kids. I don't want my kids to get that type of thing, and especially nowadays because it's easier to access than ever. It's far easier for us to access porn than it was for our parents. It's probably, I don't know how, but it's probably going to somehow be even easier for our kids to access it than we have it now. So
fair.
a lot of temptations there. I think it just started off with me being a little horny teenager that wanted to see women naked and whatnot. But yeah, nowadays it's more of just a kind of like in effect, the same way as like someone who, obviously different chemicals, but like someone who smokes a cigarette could be like a stress relief mechanism or whatever the case may be. Things like that. On a more lighthearted note, another temptation for me, if you get me around mint at all, Lifesavers, Mentos,
Yeah,
I will gobble that shit up.
I know that.
And it's hard for me to lay off mint because, like, I've bought one of those like $12 bags of Lifesavers before, and one time when I was in college, and I ate a whole thing of that in a day once.
Damn. I think for me, I see it as a bad thing, but us dudes don't really see it as a bad thing. Well, you might see it as a bad thing. I think my biggest temptation is women.
In what regard, though? Because if you really think about what I said too, mine's kind of the same, but it's probably a different realm.
Sleeping with them. And I'm stuck in the middle with, again, this is like really bad, but all the things I've learned from the business you and I have been, especially people skills. For me, it makes it seem like it's a lot easier for me to connect with everybody. But then I also take a lot of pride in keeping my numbers low with sleeping with people.
Right.
So I'm stuck between those two, where, like, for me, it's, I know I could probably go talk to that person and sleep with them and just get that over with and then move on to the next one. But then I don't want to get addicted to that,
Right.
where I'm just jumping from women to women to women.
Right.
Even now, for me, it's, again, like I told you, I take a lot of pride in keeping my number low. I'm not even at double digits, which I'm pretty proud of myself for that one.
Nice.
But yeah, even the last person I was with was last year, and we all know who that
Right.
is. But even before that, again, I told you I took a lot of pride in trying to keep my numbers low. Before that person, I was sexually celibate for like 5-7 years or so.
Yeah.
Just for that also reason, just because I'm like, I know this could be a temptation that's probably going to ruin me as a person.
Yeah.
Where I'm just going to try to be looking for the next best thing and never really settle down and be happy with somebody.
Yeah. Temptations, like, yeah, no, I think that's a huge problem. You see that everywhere with hookup culture and whatnot. I think, somebody that has participated in that in one form or another for short periods of my life, it gets very old very quickly. And you enjoy the feeling of, that experience, but then you have what the kids call post-nut clarity, which is where, like, after you finish, like, all reasonable functions return to your brain, and you're like, if you're not, like, with the right person, you're, like, not with the right person, you're just like, what am I doing right now? Like, and then, like, especially after you get around, like, some of those people that you were alluding to earlier, you're like, oh man, I was just inside someone else's future wife or something like that, and like that kind of stuff like that enters your brain. And honestly, when it comes to me in porn, that kind of thing also happens, where it's like, dude, what are you doing right now? And it's really easy to get down on yourself, so it's good that you don't fall into that trap.
Oh, it's so easy though.
Yeah.
Especially, it's so easy, especially now where it's just a lot of people are very straightforward.
Yeah.
I was on Hinge maybe a few days ago. And I was talking to this one chick, and she was just like, I'm just going to keep it, just to be straight with you. I just want to fuck. And then I was just like, oh, shoot. I just ended up blocking her. As tempting as it was, I just know I need to take more pride in myself in that aspect.
Right.
Just because, I mean, again, it all depends on the kind of people you're hanging around with. But a lot of the dudes that I probably hang around with would call me stupid for not sleeping around with all these women.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I pass up a lot.
Well, yeah, it's very, very much a social programming thing where, especially with guys, they're like, and don't get me wrong, I think there's a lot of societal double standards that favor women, but there's also some that favor men as well, quite a bit of them, actually, and this is one of those where it's like, if your body count is like 50, for example, if you're a woman, they call you a slut. If you're a man, they call you a legend. And when in reality, I think, and it's kind of interesting because you'll listen to things like, you know, the Whatever podcast and all that stuff, or like where they preach like they don't want sexual promiscuity within women, but then don't obey that law themselves. I do think that it is something that should work both ways, and I'm pretty sure in the biblical sense it works out better in the stories for those who do treat that the same both ways.
It's because even now for me, you know, I'm trying to date with a purpose. So it's, for me, it's pointless just to be jumping from women to women to women when I have an end goal at the end of the day, which is, you know, find somebody and possibly marry.
Right.
I'm not going to do that sleeping around with women.
Yeah, no.
And the worst thing that can happen to me is I'm sleeping around with women. I catch feelings for one of them, but she was also just trying to sleep with me.
Right.
So even now, like, you know, I'm still in that dating world. Back to like the business thing, like I have my own, they gotta mark off a couple things.
Right.
Before you want to pursue anything. And I'm at the point too where if they don't like check one of the things that I have on my list, I don't even bother moving forward because those are my non-negotiables.
Right.
And I'm at the point in my life where I have the patience enough to wait for that long. So I'm in no rush to even find the right person.
Yeah. I think it was... I'm trying to think. My ex and I split... Let's see, 2017. How old would have I been?
5 years ago. 25.
6.
No, 24.
Yeah, I would have been 24 years old. So I remember at that point in time, because I think it was it 2017? Yeah, I think was when that relationship ended. I had told myself, and did it go out?
No. Remember when you disconnected it? I was recording and then... Oh, fuck.
Oh, man.
It's okay, we could leave off where we were just at.
Let's see, am I connected to the... yep.
Stretching my pubes.
So should I check if that...
Damn, that sucks.
I think that other recording should be in there.
It should, because it's still uploading my recording.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's already fully uploaded. Sweet.
Perfect.
How fast that was.
Yeah. So then I'll have to just edit things.
Are you back in again?
Yeah, I'm back in. It's recording again.
Where did we even finish off?
I think we were talking about... Oh, yeah, my... Like, 24, I was... I'd realized at that point, I'm like, you know... I think a lot of times family tries to put pressure on you to continue the lineage, so to speak. I think that is also something that is a pressure that's a lot more put on women because biologically they don't produce eggs as long as men produce sperm. So,
yeah, that's true.
So, but I still think like at that point, my sister had just gotten married. My parents hadn't had grandkids yet, so. You know, I think my mom had asked me one day, like, you know, she's like, hopefully you'll get married and, you know, have a family soon and whatnot. And I'm like, Mom, I don't care if I have to wait until 40 to find the right person. Like, I will hold out. And granted, at that point, I didn't have the maturity to not just sleep around and whatnot because I was kind of in my slut phase a little bit. between 2017 and say up until about 2019 or so.
Not me.
Yeah. I had two really bad phases. I think my count, I'll be real with my count, actually. I feel like nobody actually ever gives an actual number to that.
What's yours?
I don't know my exact count, but it's either 13 or 14. And I guarantee you about 10 of them were in 2 little 6-month stretches in my life after I ended relationship, or after I got cheated on. There was like the first person I got cheated on with her. I had like 5 people in between, or no, like 4 people in between her and then my second serious relationship. Then she cheated on me, and then I had like another 3 or 4 people or 5 people, and then somebody that I was casually seeing for a while, for almost a year, and then person. Because there was actually, like, after that whole thing ended and I started on the team, I did have a period where I wasn't doing nothing in that regard, because I was just like, I need to work on myself right now. This is just a distraction. And then
guess my number.
5.
6.
Dang.
But this is the crazy part. Since 2014 till now, it's only been 1.
Okay.
Fuck, that's almost 10 years.
Yeah, that's wild. But here's the other thing too. Like, a lot of people are like, "Oh, we shouldn't shame about body count and whatnot," and if somebody's high and whatnot, you shouldn't shame and whatnot. Here's the lens I think about it through: the higher somebody's body count, the more I feel like I have to worry about STDs.
Okay, there's that one, but I feel for me now, knowing what I know, like the higher body count's not going to really scare me to that point.
Right.
But I think what kind of like turned me off to it is, sex is like a very deep connection with somebody. I feel like if a person has a lot of partners in their life, that connection is not going to be as strong with that specific person.
Oh, absolutely. I'd agree with
like,
that.
For example, like we'll say I sleep with somebody and it's my 7th person versus maybe their 30th.
Right.
My connection is probably going to be a lot more like intimate than probably hers.
Right. I kind of think about that the same way when it comes to friendships, actually.
Sleeping with them?
No.
Oh.
No, I don't sleep with. All my friends are male friends. I am straight.
Well, I slept with you.
Contrary to popular belief, I am straight, apparently.
But I've slept with you.
I mean, we have slept in a bed together, and yes, you did back up into my flashlight at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when it comes to, like, friendships in general, like, especially when it comes to, like, going back to, the people that we were affiliated with and whatnot, everybody could be everybody's friend, but if they're, like, 100 people that they had to pay attention to, I'm like, at a certain point, it's like, that unless if you're, like, in their inner circle, you're ranked pretty low on the totem pole and you don't get that much attention from them. And at that point, it's like, okay, yeah, it is a friendship, but how deep is that friendship? Or social media. That's another good example. I have like 900 and something friends on Facebook for whatever reason. Mainly because of networking. But how much of those people do I have actual in-depth conversations with? Not very many.
Yeah, that's also true.
I mean, think about it. How many good friends do you think you spend good quality time around, like, say, on a yearly basis?
Probably a handful.
Yeah. I'm the same. It's like you have your...
Even family, a handful.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's even... Like, that circle's very, very small a lot of the time for people, because the amount of time and effort and energy that goes into those relationships, I think, call for a limit on that. Like, you could be immensely popular with a lot of people, and you can even impact a ton of people. But in terms of those inner workings and those relationships where you guys know each other so well, where you even know certain, idiosyncrasies about each other, you're probably lucky to have a couple of those people in your life that know you that well.
It's like even me bringing it back to the whole relationship thing, where now that I was kind of saying those numbers out loud, 10 years of the line.
Mm-hmm.
Like even thinking about it too, it's, well, not really temptations, but like when I was younger, I did all the stupid things. I did everything.
Yeah.
Just like everybody else did. And now that I'm getting older, I don't feel like I'm in a rush to be kind of a whore.
Right.
I'm also hitting that phase in my life where, yeah, I am 27, but I don't feel 27. I feel a lot older.
Right.
It might have been also because those people I hung around with and everything. Where even sleeping with just women just seems like a waste of my time.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, this also kind of stopped me from being tempted to do it. I'm just like, okay, I sleep with them. Maybe it's like 30 minutes. The travel to get to them. The travel to get back. The travel I got to spend. I mean, the time I had to spend with them.
Right.
Say it's 3-4 hours in total. That's 3-4 hours that I could have used on something more productive than just sleeping with a random person.
Yeah. Yeah. There's I think there's been a study on this. It might have actually been from that Think and Grow Rich book, where most men that become millionaires don't do so until they're at least 40. And the big reason for that is because they have a lot of when they're younger, they allow a lot of these types of temptations to get in their way. And yeah, like for you, it might have been like in your teens and what have you. For me, it was in my 20s. And where I'm pretty much at a point now, I'm like, I'm getting married, and I love the idea of just sharing that experience with one woman for the rest of my life, because it's...
Can't relate.
What's that?
Can't relate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like, because that whole relationship that I was telling you about earlier, where, somebody knows you in and out so well, she's one of those people for me.
Yeah.
So, she can tell when something's wrong with me and what have you. So it's like, I'd much rather have an experience with someone like that, who I know actually cares about me, versus more of like a transactional exchange. Because, yeah, prostitution in the literal sense is a transactional exchange, but hookup culture is a transactional exchange. It's just that you guys want the same thing, and money typically isn't involved with that, even though I guess in the case of prostitution it is. But that's essentially what it is. You're paying for a hookup. And so... yeah, it's kind of interesting, because when we talk about temptations and what have you, a lot of this kind of goes into the sexual nature of things. But what are some of the other temptations that you deal with? Foods you shouldn't eat? I know that's one that's popular with a lot of people.
It is. Like, I have crazy sweet tooth.
Same.
And then for me now, it's just wine. But it also goes back to the thing, too, where I'm disciplined enough to not do it when I'm, like, training.
Yeah.
Or not training, but getting ready for a competition. I could cut them all out like nothing. So that's not really a temptation. I think for me is... Ooh, I don't know. I don't really know.
A good example of that, going back to my fiance, since I apparently enjoy bragging about her a lot, but I think that means I'm choosing correctly. But so one of the things, this is kind of an area that, if she were here, I think she could talk more into, but certain foods and whatnot, she's been having to show a lot more restraint lately, because she's gotten some health checkups recently, and she's essentially figured out that she wants to work on losing weight and just overall being healthier for herself. So before you wokies come and attack me about this, no body shaming thing. One, I've never cared about like her weight as long as she's not like on my 600-pound life and completely let herself go. Which she told me the other day that she was like, you better not ever let me get to that point. And I was like, I don't know how I can do it without hurting your feelings. She's like, hurt my feelings. Don't ever let me get to that point. And so a lot of this for her is she's working on herself and she's having to learn how to have restraint with certain things that she wasn't worried about having restraint with in the past. So when you're trying to change your mindset about these things, it's trying to gain that discipline and restraint to overcome those temptations in ways that you haven't before. And if this is something you've been dealing with for years and years and years, understand that your brain has been programmed for years to do that. Your brain is like a supercomputer. It does what you tell it to do. And if you've been telling it to do the same thing for years, just telling it not to give in to the temptation once doesn't override it. That temptation keeps coming back and you have to keep working on it. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned with temptation is if I have historically given into a temptation and I try to get off of it and then I give into it again, I used to beat myself up. And I'm not talking about like figuratively either. I would literally beat myself up, but also figuratively. Figuratively and literally beat myself up. That I think is one of the worst things you can do because all it does is demoralize you to the point where you just repeatedly do it. You have to know what like response you have, but I think
for me, kind of just take it back to last year because I feel like that last year was a time where I was more tempted than any other time now.
Right.
Like around, I'm bad with my dates. August, September, October, and a little bit of November. Some of my friends were trying to like push me into getting back out there. Downloaded a bunch of these dating apps. I was, literally being tempted a lot.
Right.
A lot. And it's easier said than done, but what I used to do, I just stopped thinking about it.
Yeah.
Also being surrounded with like the right people.
Yes.
Because if I keep being surrounded with those, they're still my friends, those other friends, I would have probably been sleeping around a lot.
Yeah.
But I knew that can't be the end goal for me.
Yeah.
So I purposely tried hanging out with other people that don't think that way.
Right.
Like you.
Right.
And it honestly got a lot easier. Because I could still do it to this day where it's just, well, I don't want to say every day, every time, but most of the time I could just shut it off.
Yeah.
I could just be like, oh, cool. And then block them and move on.
Yeah.
And, gummies is my other temptation.
Gummies?
Gummies.
Like weed gummies or?
I don't smoke.
Well, yeah, they're gummies.
Like actual gummies. Like gummy bears. Gummy worms.
Oh, okay.
More gummy bears than gummy worms.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh. That one's a tough one.
You give me some gummy bears, even when I'm dieting, I'll find a way.
So when I make this store run, or when we make this store run for the bachelor party this weekend, should we be picking you up some gummy bears?
Wait, no, I know which one's the biggest one, and I know this is the biggest one for me. It's dried spicy mango.
Dried spice.
Yeah,
that sounds Mexican as shit.
I know. So like when I was dieting for the competition, my older brother bought like a big bag, and I just kept eating. I suffered through it because I was just like, all right, if I eat 4 of these, and then I just drink water all day. I was starving myself that way, just so I could eat the spicy mangoes. And then I got a bag, big bag. And I was telling my brother, this is going to last me like 2 weeks. It lasted me 2 days. Spicy mango.
I feel like I'm that way with a lot of different things. But the thing is like, you know how some temptations are like good? Well, most of them are bad, I think. Maybe.
Almost all of them.
Yeah. But certain ones penalize you more than others. When it comes to food temptations, for me, because of like the way I am and being, a twig for most of my life, I haven't really had to worry about the penalties of it on the outset. But
I have to worry about them.
yeah, but it's still like one of those things where I'm like, like for me, yeah, I'm with you. I have a really big sweet tooth. I'll eat. I think I ate like a whole bag of goldfish earlier today, and it's like it's good, but it's a lot of processed food going into my body, and I'm like, I know that's not like good for me. So it's like, even though I don't pay the price with my weight too much, I do pay for it with my energy levels, I feel like. And it's one of those things where it's like, you have to know what the price is, and you kind of have to ask yourself if you're willing to live with that. And if not, then you also have to ask yourself of like, what do you do, what to do about it, what help do you need, what resources do you have at your disposal, and what have you.
You don't think about that at all when you're eating that food.
No, probably not. Spicy mangoes, let me guess. Does the price you pay come out the other end?
No.
No.
Not for me.
No.
Maybe for you.
No. No, not really. No.
Oh, I think I'm going to bring some of that for the trip. No. Maybe.
You can. My buddy Jeff loves spicy stuff. He has a very high spice tolerance.
Then no, because he's going to eat them.
He might.
I was thinking about having them for me. Thinking, no, y'all are going to fucking eat them.
Give one to my dad, though.
He doesn't do spicy food?
No. Watching him react to spicy food is the most hilarious
I feel like he's going to make fun of me for saying... He's going to say something Mexican just like you did.
Nah, he's not that way.
I don't know. Remember, when we're having your bride party... Your bride party...
My bride party?
What? I don't know what they're called. It's not bridesmaid party. It's a wedding shower. Wedding shower.
Yeah, the one we just had this last weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your dad, before I was leaving, well, before he left, he's like, "You ain't gonna be doing nothing crazy out there, Chris, because I'm gonna be there." And I'm like, "We both know I'm gonna do something stupid." He's like, "Yeah."
See, here's the thing, though.
Because I'm Mexican.
Here's the thing, though. I'm really curious to see what my dad's going to do. And yeah, for the audience, yeah, I am like the one person that I know that is taking my own dad to my bachelor party. Because you know what? My dad's cool. Honestly, it'll be kind of interesting because I figure we could use some adult supervision while we're up there. But
some adults, they're like all 30-year-olds and 2 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
The supervision's for the 2 20-year-olds.
I don't know. I don't think Alex needs super. Oh, well, actually, after hearing that one story,
there's going to be alcohol.
There better not be anything. There better not be any bathroom accidents. I'll have to make sure to remind him of that. I talked to him yesterday, but anyway, alrighty. Well, I guess we could wrap it up by saying that, temptations are everywhere. Everybody's got them. If you're working on them and trying to better yourself, good for you. I think we definitely applaud that kind of thing. If you're struggling with it and it seems like it's kicking you in the gut over and over again, just keep getting back up. Don't beat yourself up. We're all human. We try the best that we can. I think as long as people are on the paths of betterment and bettering themselves in whatever form that may be for you, we applaud you. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's, don't be hard on yourself. If you fall, just pick yourself back up and continue moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, a bad day is a bad day. Compartmentalize things into days. If you're having a bad day, there's always tomorrow. Tomorrow's a new day. If whatever you're trying to work on has like a streak of going X amount of days and you break it, just start a new streak. And yeah, it's...
Unless it's herpes. Bye!
Bye! That was good.